like start with the basics. What is data? So that's exactly where we're going to start today. And so maybe Scott, what is data to you?
Data are individual points. And one of the worst parts is that all those points don't mean anything unless you start to define them. And so you always have to ask yourself, what kind of data or data are we dealing with? Is it analytic data? Is it revenue data? Is it population data? Is it audience data? I think for this, we're pretty much talking about audience data and how it relates to people, but there's also data that's attached to that because each data point has another point next to it. And when you connect the line between them, that's when you start to tell stories between things because it's the relationship between 2 points that makes data interesting. Data has always been at our core, and when I say data, I hate using it like in an unmodified way. So the data I talk about was search data. Like, what are people searching for? What are they trying to accomplish in their lives? That was the core question that was at the heart of Leaf Group, which was formerly Demand Media. At the core of that is, what do people want to do, and what questions are they asking of the internet and through a search bar? And so then that started to inform our content strategy. And now we have content that's highly aligned with search intent and behavior. So if you say how to change a tire, we know that you probably are looking how to change your tire. And if you want like how to fix a bathroom sink and you're on your mobile device, you are either in Home Depot or you are standing in your bathroom in an inch of water. Like, that's what we learn. And so we take that sort of contextual intent data and we apply that to the person and start to understand that these are people and you get little glimpses of them, of what they're doing. And that's our classification of audience data. And then we use that to help continue to inform our content strategy, inform our user experience, and also help connect with brands who are looking to find those little glimpses of insight into our audience. The idea of vendors and one size doesn't fit all. You have to try things, and sometimes it's going to be expensive, and sometimes you're going to make the right choice, and sometimes you make the wrong choice. But whatever choice you make, like, learn as much as you can from it, and try as hard as you can to make that square peg fit into the round hole, because it might work. And if it doesn't, the next time that you go through the process, you really understand, I can't have corners on my round peg, or wherever you want to take that. Like, everything you do and everything we do, there has to be a bridge somewhere between there. And that gap is keeping our businesses further apart than they should be.
What's fueling the gap?
Whew, that's a great question. What is fueling the gap between marketers and publishers? Historical behavior. Jargon. I think publishers have to do a better job of making their things accessible in a marketer format. Okay. And dare I ask that marketers make themselves a little bit more amenable to seeing data from the publishers and trying to work with that, or giving publishers access to the insights and the data and the results that they may be seeing so that we can ingest those, translate our messages, and put them into a common language.
How do you even start with that? So when you're speaking with phone calls?
Phone calls.
Yeah, so what are you asking buyers when you're on the phone with them?
The big questions I always ask is like, do you have a DMP? And if yes, which one?
Yeah.
That is question number one. Then you can ask them like, what's your trading desk? And how does that fit into it? You can ask them like, where does your data sit inside your organization? Is it a tactical approach, or is it a strategic approach? If it's strategic, it's very early in the planning cycle and you're using insights and data and you're using some really good modeled stuff, and then your media plan sort of flows naturally from it. If it's tactical, it's adding like a male or female segment at the very end of your targeting plan.
Yep.
And that's not that great, and which is fine. I mean, I guess it's fine. Like, that's one way to do things. And then the last question is like, are you prepared to share data? And it may be internally on their side, and it might be between us, but if you can say yes to that, it means that you're comfortable both philosophically, legally, and technically to be able to move data from one side to the other.
KPIs are not necessarily the only sort of data disconnect. I do believe, if I'm going to step into the marketer's shoes a bit, if we're talking about data, especially first-party data for publishers, I think the question comes up a lot of, is it actually scalable? Is that a fallacy? Is it a reasonable question that they have?
It doesn't scale like third-party data scales.
Yeah.
But then you have to ask third-party data, like, why does it scale like it does? Like, how many home buyers are in the United States? Like 50 million? I don't quite think so. You know, and so I think we'll agree on, because we are similar in many ways, is that publisher data is a truth set, and it's collected in a very clear and transparent manner from a almost declared behavior. And if we only have 50,000 of something, that 50,000 is a very pure and concentrated audience of exactly the behavior that you're looking for. And so if you come back and say, well, I need 1 million of them, it's like there may not be 1 million people looking for garbage disposals every month. And this was a real case for us. We had a garbage disposal company ask us, like, how do you find this? I was like, well, I have about 100 articles all about cleaning garbage disposals, fixing them, repairing them, you know, removing them. And we get about 50,000 people a month that come to these articles. And every month they're different people, because you break your garbage disposal sort of like once. And they were like, well, how do we target them and find them? And so we went through a sort of a sophisticated media plan of on-site and off-site and retargeting, a little bit of lookalike modeling, because that's helpful. And they started to see their universe in a different way, that 50,000 people was enough and that you could activate on them, but you weren't going to be able to drive like a 25-cent CPM on the open auction against them. Like, spend a little bit more money to reach these isolated audiences, because they're exactly what you're looking for. And I even told them, if you can find me a garbage disposal intender segment throughout the entire universe of third-party data, I will gladly like refund you the data fee. And the answer is you can't, because like one of the third-party vendors like just doesn't have that, right? And that may be even too small for them to even carry or care about. But for that one advertiser, it was exactly what they were looking for. And we have 4,000 segments, so we got them all.
If you could boil it down to just one thing, like one way of communicating with them that leads to success of being able to use this data, what do you communicate to a marketer? What is your one thing?
I'd say be open to testing and understanding, and be flexible with your media plan and the way it is. If your plan is to buy 1 billion impressions and just bowl over, you know, half of the internet, what do you need audience data for anyways? You're just going to buy at like the lowest CPM, and you're trying to target half of America. But if you want to have a sophisticated, strategic approach that's really focused on driving results, then listen to what we have to say. Because if, you know, to your point, like if we want to target garbage disposal intenders or country music fans, because that's who you think is going to work, and it probably will, and then you say, but let's layer on this like obscure demo data because our marketing department said that, you know, they have to be this certain age and this certain gender. Well, what you're ignoring is all the other people that do that action and buy those things. So let our machines, let our algorithms and targeting systems figure out whether that's working for you or not. But don't just blindly apply like a second layer of data because that's what your marketing plan says. Let the data do what it's supposed to do.